Hi everyone, Mason from Canon here, and thanks for joining us. In this video, we're going to be doing something a little different, which is why we're using the EOS R6 Mark III as one of our brand new cameras, and we'd like to show off utilizing this camera out in the real world, because we don't want to just give you the tech specs. We actually want to show you what it's like to photograph landscape, wildlife, out in a timeless environment. So pack your bags, get ready to come along with us to Yellowstone National Park on location. Good morning, everyone. Today with me is Kelly.
Hi, everyone.
And Tony. It's their first time here in Yellowstone, so I'm really excited for them. How about you guys?
I'm so excited.
And today we're going to be headed off to Old Faithful as our first stop, and we're going to be able to see the geyser early in the morning. And it's going to be pretty cold, I'm sure, because already, I'm bundled up, and so I hope you guys are ready for the cold as well, too.
Definitely.
Ooh. Gotta warm up. It's a cold morning here at Old Faithful. What we're hoping to achieve here is to have the sunrise come up behind the ridgeway there, and hopefully, if we play our timing right, maybe Old Faithful's gonna erupt and we'll have that sun backlighting it. But you never know unless you actually get out and try and take a shot. So, and as far as my camera settings are concerned, of course, f8 to f11. You want to be in that nice range so you get everything in focus. Now, when the sun does crest up and over, I'm not too concerned about the shutter speed. If I have a little bit of a slower shutter speed, even if it's at 1/15 of a second, that's okay with me, because then I can see the energy that's coming out of Old Faithful with some movement. But if I do speed up the shutter speed, I'll probably shoot at about 1/500th of a second to freeze that steam as well too. My ISO, I can start off at ISO 400. I don't necessarily need to be at 100. I can be at 400 or 800. Again, but it's going to mostly dictate based on aperture. And then I'll prioritize shutter, and then of course ISO. And those are going to be my main settings for this scene. As the light keeps changing, I'm going to fluctuate and monitor my settings. There's no perfect setting. I can't tell you this. It's always going to be based on the situation, because if it wasn't a beautiful clear sky and if it was a little bit more overcast, it might be different. So you might actually have to bump up your ISO. That's why in order to really know your settings, you have to dial it in at the scene. So as things keep changing, I'm going to be monitoring my settings and make sure I get a really great exposure. And if it's a really dynamic situation, I am going to bracket my photos so that way I can then later on in post-production, I can process the image later on and do some blending and masks and really make a nice photo. I'm really happy with the shot I got and the situation, because the sun was coming up. Kind of what I was predicting. I was hoping for the Old Faithful to rise up and erupt, but that wasn't the case. But that's okay, because I'm still happy with the shot that I got. It was a pretty dynamic scene, so I am going to work the image a little bit in post to really bring out the exposure and even it out, but also maybe highlight some of the things that maybe I didn't see in the moment as well. So what we're going to do next is I'm going to put on the RF100mm F2.8 Macro IS-USM lens, and we're going to go out and get some abstracts, because there's this beautiful water here and the light's coming up, and so we want to play with our images here. What caught my eye when I was walking through the forest area here was this pine tree and the shadows that are being cascaded onto the bark, which was really interesting to me because I just love seeing that texture. But added to that are the little branches of the pine tree itself, the little branches that were cascading a shadow across the texture as well. So it's like a 2-for-1 kind of scenario. So what I'm doing now first is I'm going to just set up, and I'm going to, even though this is my macro shot, I kind of want to see the vision of the scene first. And then I'm going to work my way up and get even closer to get really true macro photo. I think I'm actually pretty happy with the photo that I got. So as we're walking around the boardwalk here, I was looking for something specific. I didn't know what I was looking for, but I wanted to utilize the macro lens. And there are some limitations with walking on a boardwalk here in Yellowstone, because you don't want to be walking into a geyser actually. So it's really good to stay within the trail and the boardwalk itself too. But what happens is that you look for something and then all of a sudden you see little things, right? This is a big vista, but it's also really great to see the little things. And so I spotted something that caught my eye, and it was like a crescent within a crescent shape. And the reason why, again, with the 100mm macro is to isolate that subject. Now, some of the settings that I used was f8, which again is really important to have a nice sharp image. And then also I was using ISO 400 with a shutter speed of about 6/40th of a second. What is the most important for this kind of scenario, especially if you're overreaching the boardwalk and hand holding it and not using a tripod, is to actually be an AI servo, because your hands are always moving, and so you want to actually be focused. And if you're in one shot, if your hand moves, one shot's going to turn off and not engage as soon as it confirms focus. AI servo, on the other hand, is going to constantly look for that focus. So in this type of scenario, again, without it being steady and my hand moving, even though it's so slight, because it's macro, it's going to be emphasized. And so AI servo is your best bet. Now that we got a few great macro photos, we're going to continue on our adventure here in Yellowstone. And because of the R6 Mark III's 40 frames per second, I'm going to really focus in on wildlife, because I want to be able to capture that action and freeze that action when I'm photographing maybe like a bald eagle or maybe even a bear if I'm really lucky. I mean, hopefully we'll get some bison as well too, and maybe an elk or so, but we're going to continue on our adventure and really push this camera to its limits.
Where are we going?
Lamar Valley. This is where we're at right now. It's also known as the Serengeti of North America, and the reason why is because this valley is teeming with wildlife. We pulled up and there's hundreds, if not thousands, of bison and buffalo here. And so it's really exciting to see all of this wildlife in this beautiful valley. Also, you might even be lucky and see some coyote or wolves and maybe even a bear. And in order to be safe and not get injured by any of the animals, I'm going to be utilizing the RF100mm to 800mm f6.3 to 9 ISUSM lens. It's not an L lens, but this lens sure is perfect for wildlife. You can go all the way from 200mm to 800mm, and it's so light, I'm able to be at a far distance. That way I'm protecting myself, and I also don't want to injure any of the animals as well too. And compositional tips for wildlife, especially with these bison and they're flat on the plains, you don't want to photograph from such a high angle. You actually want to get down low as possible because you want that animal to feel strong and mighty. And so being up high, you might not get that same perspective. So get down low. That's one of the reasons why I'm not using a tripod. And it's also one of the reasons why I'm doing a handheld and sitting in a little cross-legged section, because I can go like this and flip out the monitor. And by flipping out the LCD screen, I'm able to just photograph easily like this. I'll stabilize with my legs. There's three coyotes, and I think there's even one baby as well too. I swear, we are so lucky on this trip. I've been here so many times, and I've never seen one coyote, let alone a pack of coyotes. I mean, if you can consider three, I would consider 3 coyotes a pack of coyotes, or whatever the technical term is, but man, that is really exciting to see. And again, because I have the 200 to 800mm lens, I'm able to zoom out all the way to 800mm and be able to capture them. Man, seeing those coyotes though, that was really, really exciting. So we're in this beautiful meadow right now, and when we were cruising by, we saw a bald eagle. And hey, you gotta love a bald eagle when you see it. So let's go out and photograph it. Shooting with the RF to 600mm F4L ISUSM lens. Also with the doubler, the 2x extender. So that way I'm gonna get about a 1200mm focal length. So I can really zoom in and get a nice sharp image of that eagle. Also utilizing a monopod, because then that way I get a nice pretty steady shot, and I'm able to just maneuver as I need to. So let's talk about some of the settings, right? In this really kind of difficult lighting condition, you can go with auto ISO or you can set it manual. Again, ISO, I'm going to shoot this at about 1600. Reason why is because I want my shutter speed to be nice and fast, because it's flying in motion and it's actually moving faster than it might appear. So that's why utilizing a nice sharp shutter speed is going to be paramount to getting a nice sharp image. The aperture is going to fluctuate in that sense. I'm not going to prioritize it, especially too since I have the doubler on there. I know I'm going to be probably shooting at about an f8 or maybe an f11. Because again, this is the 600mm with the f4, and the 2x extender is going to make it at least an f8. So let's just kind of hope and keep watching that the eagle's gonna come by, and maybe even too we might see something else. Perhaps maybe another bird, maybe a sandhill crane, or maybe even some ducks. We'll see. So it's really exciting because the eagle was flying up in the air and he was a little backlit because he was just right like on the opposite side of the sun. So I really couldn't get a really decent shot of him, but he landed down in that tree over there and I got a really nice shot of him, and he's just looking straight at us. And so, you know, hey, one in the bag and let's go on to the next. The beautiful thing about this area Yellowstone is the passing clouds, and they create these pockets of light. There's one little aspen just up there on the ridge line, and I'm just hoping that the light just kind of hits it, just to like make it really shine. So there we go, but I might be getting some sun flare. Oh no! Oh, look at that. That light is literally just kissing off that aspen in that one little section, and the light is just coming right in. Ah, perfect. Oh, great. Look at that. Sometimes you get lucky. You just gotta just sit and wait. Sometimes you get lucky. Let's go on. Let's go find something else. Whew, it's been a long day, but we just finished up at Lamar Valley, and wow, that was super exciting.
It was
right?
amazing.
We're headed next to our sunset location, and it's at the Great Fountain Geyser. This is going to be a unique experience, I think, because we're headed out there. We've been driving around, and the road's closed, so we have to actually hike a mile out to the geyser. And I hope you don't mind.
No way.
Yeah.
Let's do it. Okay, so you've been there before?
Yeah.
Do you know, like, is it known how much it goes off every day, or?
Not anymore since the road closed, but I think it goes off usually about twice a day. So, and they used to be able to track the times, but again, since the road's closed, I don't think they're actually monitoring it.
All right.
Yeah, but hey, you never know, right?
Yeah.
You got to be lucky
Fingers
sometimes,
crossed.
and yeah, you just got to show up and be there. So we got here to the Great Fountain Geyser in perfect time, right here for sunset. And as we approach during sunset, the geyser is actually erupting. So I'm taking photos right now as we're recording. But I'll go over my settings real quick here because, you know, time is really essence. So my settings are ISO 100, f8, and the shutter speed is going to be dependent on the bracketing situation. What I'm actually doing as well too is I'm bracketing the photo. So I set it in the AEB, and I went in, because of this is such a high dynamic situation, I went into my custom settings and I switched it from 3 shots bracketed, that's the general default, to 5, because I want that extra latitude. So when I'm processing the photo later, that way I can really pull in those beautiful highlights and boost up those shadows. Whoa, look at this thing, it's going off. Oh, that was it. That was the last bit of light coming down, sunset. Wow, that was so cool. That was so cool. I can't believe all these things happened all at once. Geyser, sunset. It was really incredible. I mean, it's just something I was hoping for, but I'm just so pleasantly surprised that it actually came into fruition. Useful tip for anybody that's doing landscape photography. Never leave. Like, just stay as long as possible. Even if the sun's about to set or you're getting a little hungry and cold, stick it out, because I'm telling you, this was worth it. And so we're actually gonna start packing up and heading back to the car because we do have a mile trek back out. And I'm happy with what we were able to capture, from the geysers to the macro photos, the landscapes, and even the eagle. It was a fun experience here in Yellowstone. And the most important thing now for me to do is to come back here in the studio and make a print. Because without making a print, the photos are just gonna live on my hard drive and just collect into like this digital dust that I always think of. It's like, bring it to life, put it ink onto paper and let that image live in the real world. So I'm gonna play around with a couple of different photo papers, such as the matte photo and the luster photo paper. And I'm gonna utilize the luster paper for the geyser photo because it's just a little bit of that sparkle, that luster, to really bring out those details. And we'll be utilizing the Image ProGraph 4600. It can print up to 44 inches long, and it utilizes our Lucia Pro Ink 2 inks, which means that that ink is going to be able to last a long time on that paper. Because it's important to print. You take all these photos, you spend all this time going out to these locations, and then you just leave these beautiful photos on your hard drives, and they start to accumulate as what I like to reference it as, again, as I've heard this from somebody else, as digital dust. And why would you want to do that, right? print it out, look at your photos, and be happy with what you're able to capture. You know, I print so much and I have photos all over my house because I just love reminiscing about where I've been in life, what I've been able to experience. So I can't tell you enough. Print your photos and make yourself happy, again, to show what you've been able to achieve. See? Look at that. So cool. If you'd like to learn more about the EOS R6 Mark III or the wide assortment of RF lenses and even our filming gear, go to usa.canon.com or check out the description down below. If you made it this far, leave a comment. Tell us, where should we go next? Until next time, see ya at the next On Location.